Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new edition of The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is absolutely crucial and honestly pretty stark. We're unpacking a highly motivational piece of source material that looks at the brutal math of time and daily habits. Specifically, we're zeroing in on the most formative decade of a person's life, your 20s. So if you're someone who loves to optimize your time, well, this explainer is going to be incredibly revealing. We're going to see exactly how the microscopic, everyday choices you make right now literally compound into the reality you're forced to live with later on. Let's get into it.
The source material hits the ground running with this incredibly heavy question. Are your 20s building your future or destroying it? Notice there's no middle ground here, right? It presents this current decade as an active, bustling construction site. The text argues that you are in a constant state of either building up your future or, rather aggressively, tearing it down. There's no neutral territory, folks. Every single day, you're making a choice that tips the scales in one of these two directions. Section 1. The ultimate crossroads and the daily habits defining your trajectory. Okay, let's dive right into this. The text states that most people end up wasting these years, and it explicitly lists out exactly how they do it. We're talking about scrolling endlessly, partying every weekend, and constantly chasing validation online. And hey, let's be totally honest with ourselves. We all know exactly how easy it is to fall down a 3-hour TikTok rabbit hole on a random Tuesday, right? But the text frames these not just as, innocent pastimes, but as active mechanisms of waste. It's the pursuit of immediate dopamine and instant comfort at the direct, undeniable expense of tomorrow. But while all that dopamine chasing is happening, the text introduces a super compelling counter-narrative. I want you to think of this person as your shadow competitor. This is someone your exact same age who is out there quietly laying a rock-solid foundation. How? By building skills, starting businesses, investing money, and ultimately creating freedom. Notice the action verbs here. These are all compounding actions. Yeah, they're really difficult in the short term, but they actively construct a foundation for the rest of your life. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of the text. The contrast here is just staggering. On one hand, you've got the pursuit of dopamine, actions that literally deplete your resources, your time, and your energy. And that's pitted directly against the pursuit of a foundation, actions that accumulate and grow over time. The source material is directly pitting these two lifestyles against one another to show us a hard truth. They simply cannot coexist if you want to end up in a strong position later in life. You've got to pick a lane. Section 2. The age 30 gap and the terrifying latency of consequences. You won't notice the damage immediately. Now, this is the really scary part. The true danger of that first path, the endless scrolling, the partying, that constant need for online validation, is its sheer invisibility. The daily decay goes completely unnoticed in the moment. Think about it. When you waste a Tuesday evening, your life doesn't just magically fall apart on Wednesday morning. It doesn't work like that. The consequences are latent. They're hiding right there, just beneath the surface of your daily routine. Let's actually map out exactly how this looks based on the text's logic. So, at age 22, the habits begin to form. Fast forward to 25, and we enter the phase of invisible compounding. The damage, or the growth, is definitely happening, but you still can't quite see it yet. By 28, the paths start to seriously diverge, though honestly, you might still be able to ignore it if you try hard enough. But then, we hit the materialization phase. The gap between the waster and the builder has been slowly, silently widening over all these years until it finally hits a breaking point. Which brings us to the absolute climax of the source text, age 30. This massive number represents the exact threshold where the invisible damage suddenly and undeniably reveals itself. That latency period we talked about, it ends right here. No more hiding. The gap becomes obvious. That is a brutal, brutal realization straight from the text. At this specific point in time, the compounding effects of the daily choices we just compared become a permanent, unavoidable reality. It's no longer just some theoretical difference in daily habits, It is a visible, lived disparity in quality of life, in freedom, and in stability. The person who quietly built skills and invested is now fundamentally separated from the person who scrolled and partied. Section 3. Redefining your 20s by shifting your mindset away from comfort. So, the crucial point here is this. Your 20s are not for comfort. The source material lays this down as an absolute rule. Seeking an easy, comfortable life right now is framed as a really dangerous trap, one that leads straight to that obvious, painful gap at age 30. Basically, comfort is the ultimate enemy of the construction process we talked about earlier. Instead of seeking comfort, the source gives us an exact 4-step formula for being a successful 20-something. Step 1 is learning. Step 2 is failing. Step 3 is building. And step 4 is growing. Notice how incredibly uncomfortable this progression is. I mean, failing is inherently uncomfortable. Building takes exhausting, relentless effort. But the text insists that this specific, difficult sequence is literally the only way to achieve genuine growth. There are no shortcuts.
And this brings us to the core takeaway of today's explainer. The habits you build now will decide the life you live later. Your future self is entirely dependent on the microscopic actions you take today. Notice that the text doesn't say your habits might influence your life, it says they will decide it. It is a strict, one-to-one transfer of your current effort directly into your future reality.
Section 4, the wealth illusion and the difference between acting and building.
All right, here is the text's final dichotomy. On one side, there is the superficial trap of wasting time acting rich, projecting status and constantly chasing that validation online. The alternative? Doing the quiet, unglamorous, behind-the-scenes work to build real wealth and create true, lasting value. It's the classic battle of looking the part versus actually being the part.
The text delivers this final, punchy mandate directly. It says, stop wasting time acting rich and start building real wealth. It brings our tale of two paths to a definitive, really powerful conclusion. It's essentially a massive call to action to drop the illusion of success in your 20s and instead fully embrace the difficult mechanics of actually creating it.
Which leaves us with this final thought to conclude our explainer. Based on everything we've unpacked from the source today, the invisible compounding of our habits, that inevitable and brutal gap at age 30, the trap of comfort versus the sheer power of growth, which path are you building today? Remember, every single action is a brick. Where are you laying yours right now? Take a moment today to really deeply ponder your own trajectory. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and I will see you next time.